Assalamu alaikum to everyone. It's me, Fatma Khan, and you are sitting in the exhibition of climateactioncenter. The exhibition is the part of Climate Week. The Climate Week consists of 40 different workshops, and we are doing with 60 different partners. I would like to call Sir Yasirhussain on the stage. He is our founder and director of Climate Action Center. Please put your hands together for Sir Yasirhussain.
I never thought I'd see this day. To be in khaliqdinahall, renovated, looking beautiful, and this space and this amazing artwork here, and to see, dear friends. अब तो कह सकते हैं ना, old friends. Yeah. So I'm so happy today. अच्छा, तो ये जो आज का इवेंट है, इसमें हम इसको टीजे ने क्यूरेट किया है और काफ़ी केयरफुली किया है, क्योंकि मैंने ये कह दिया था कि मुझे अंदाज़ा हो गया कि ही कैन टेक थीम्स एंड वर्क विद आइडियाज़, सो देन आई डिडंट इंटरफेयर. एक दो चीज़ें ऐसी आई भी कि आई थॉट कि यार वाह, ये तो होना चाहिए, but he said no. So I said okay, fine. I think जो हमारा आप कह रहे हैं लहरों से ताल्लुक है, टाइड्स ऑफ टुमारो हमारा क्लाइमेट वीक कराची जो है उसकी थीम है टाइड्स ऑफ टुमारो. तो वो टाइड्स और वेव्स का और साहिल का और जो सिलसिला है वो वाकई हम उसी में रहते हैं, साहिल के किनारे हैं हम. और यूं कहें कि आज मैं दाखिल हुआ जब, तो मुझे यही लगा कि ये साहिल पे हूँ मैं, और ये नमरा का काम जो है मुझे ऐसे ही लगा कि मैं साहिल पे घूम रहा हूँ, उसमें वेव्स आ रही हैं. हालांकि उनका एक्चुअली आई थिंक स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट था. आई ऑल्सो गो बाय द नेम ऑफ दरिया, कि वहाँ दरिया बह रहे हैं. सो ये पानी, दरिया, डेल्टा, क्लिफ्टन, DHA, ऑफ कोर्स, इब्राहिम हैदरी, ये सारी चीज़ें आपको यहाँ मिलेंगी. ये सारे रेफरेंसेस आपको यहाँ पे मिलेंगे. कुछ देर में हम जो है कुछ म्यूजिक स्टार्ट कर देंगे, while we wait for TJ, who everybody knows is changing. Okay, so why don't we have a conversation instead of just me talking, or I can talk about something if you like. कुछ ऐसे कर लेते हैं, मैं बोलूं? Okay, right. So I'll talk about the Climate Week Karachi, और कुछ पुरानी बातें मैं कुछ दोहराता हूँ, कुछ इंस्पिरेशंस दोहराता हूँ मैं, inspiring moments or moments which struck a very strong chord, वो अभी तक बज रहा है. So along those lines, वो लहरें जो उस वक्त चल रही थी वो अब मौज बन गई हैं, इस तरह की चीज़ें. तो 2007 था जबकि मैं किसी को नहीं जानता था. शायद नीलोफर के एक क्यूरेटर्स की एक वर्कशॉप थी, शायद उसमें मैं गया था, तो एक दो लोगों से मुलाकात हो गई थी, लेकिन मैं वाकई किसी को नहीं जानता था, क्योंकि मैं काफ़ी अरसे बाद अमेरिका पलट हो गया था. और उस वक्त मेरे पुराने चंद दोस्त थे, एंड दैट वाज इट. लेकिन हुआ क्या कि मुशर्रफ साहब ने जजों को घर बेच के और बाहर से ताला लगा दिया, यानी उनको हाउस अरेस्ट कर दिया, सिंध के भी जजेस. और अच्छा, तो मैं उस वक्त बिल्कुल अमेरिका से आया हुआ था, मैं उनका देख रहा था कि उनका लॉ का सिस्टम कैसा है. बाकी चीज़ें एक तरफ, लेकिन लॉ की प्रैक्टिस जो है ना, और वो जो आपको सिक्योरिटी देती है, एंड दैट यू कैन चैलेंज समथिंग एज अ सिटीजन, आई हैड सीन दैट इन प्रैक्टिस. फिर सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर्स और ये चीज़ें. सो आई वॉज शॉक्ड कि ये हुआ क्या है। जाहिर है हमारे साथ पहली दफ़ा तो नहीं हुआ था, लेकिन मेरे अंदर एक आउटरेज थी, ठीक है। आई कॉल्ड इट आउटरेज एट द टाइम ऑल्सो, एंड आई डिडंट नो व्हाट टू डू। एंड देयर कम्स दिस एसएमएस। एक एसएमएस आया, उस पे एक नंबर लिखा हुआ था कि 4 PM प्रेस क्लब। अच्छा जी, अब ये दिलचस्प बहुत है कहानी ये। मैं 4 PM की बजाय 5 PM पे मैं पहुंचा। एज यूजुअल सोचता हुआ कि जाऊं ना जाऊं, छोड़ो नहीं ये करना है, अच्छा चलो फिर चलते हैं। आई वॉज देयर। तो वहां पे मुझे 2 जर्नलिस्ट मिले, बाहर खड़े हुए थे, डॉन के जर्नलिस्ट थे। इरम वाज वन ऑफ देम, एंड इरम सेड के अभी अभी 200 जर्नलिस्ट को अरेस्ट करके बसों में भर के लेके गए। ओके ओके, सो आई एम हियर एट द राइट टाइम और समथिंग लाइक दैट। मैं बच गया, वरना वेल आई वाजंट अ जर्नलिस्ट बट स्टिल। तो खैर हमने एक ग्रुप बना लिया, जो कि एक मीडिया सेल था। उसके अंदर बीना सरवर थी, आजिज जमाली एक मंझे हुए जर्नलिस्ट है वो थे, अनीस मंसूरी वो रेडियो का जर्नलिस्ट था, एक और हमारे दोस्त नोमान थे, और मैं था। और अब हम लोग नेक्स्ट 2 हफ्ते तक, क्योंकि जियो जो है वो बंद हो चुका था, 72 डेज तक जियो बंद रहा था, तो व्हाट वी स्टार्टेड डूइंग वाज कि जितनी खबरें यहाँ की होती थी, हम इंटरनेशनल कॉरेस्पॉन्डेंट्स को ईमेल करते थे रोज। तो अजान हो जाए तो मैं आराम से बात करता हूँ जी। अच्छा जी, ठीक है, शुरू करें फिर से। अच्छा जी, हाँ वर्दा आ जाओ, सितारा, एवरीबॉडी जी, ओके। हाय हाय, ओके, ऑलराइट। सो मैं बात कर रहा था कि हाँ कि प्रेस क्लब में जो है ना वो एक सेंटर, आपको पता है कराची में 2 ऐसी जगह हैं जिनका कि कहा जाता है कि उसके अंदर पुलिस नहीं जा सकती। एक ट्रेडिशन है, अब नहीं है, बीच में चले गए थे, लेकिन फिर भी शोर मचा था उस पर भी। और एक है प्रेस क्लब और एक है पाकिस्तान मेडिकल एसोसिएशन का पीएमए हाउस। वहां पे भी हमारा इवेंट हुआ था अभी जी। अच्छा, तो ये बड़ी स्पेशल जगह है, और उन्हीं दिनों में मैंने, जाहिर है उस वक्त में जो प्रोटेस्ट हो रही थी ना, तो वो एक ग्रुप बन गया था। और यानी कि नेक्स्ट 2-3 डेज में, ये बात है नवंबर 3 या कुछ 2007 की, और 2-3 दिन में एक, उस जमाने में व्हाट्सएप होता नहीं था, ईमेल होता था, ईमेल के ग्रुप्स होते थे, और वो पूरे आप समझें कि अ सॉर्ट ऑफ अ रेजिस्टेंस, उसका नाम भी उन्होंने, मैंने नहीं रखा था, उन्होंने रखा था, पीपल्स रेजिस्टेंस। तो ये पीपल्स रेजिस्टेंस ग्रुप जो था, ये डिजिटल था ये, और वही जिसने मुझे एसएमएस भेजा था, उसने मुझे ऐड भी करवा दिया। अच्छा, सो देयर वाज दिस, सो ये ऐसे लोग थे जिनको मैं कभी मिला नहीं, कभी जानता नहीं, कुछ जाने पहचाने भी, और थोड़ी देर में पता चला कि इसके अंदर आरिफ अलवी साहब भी हैं, असद उमर भी हैं, और उस वक्त पीटीआई के स्टॉल पे कोई नहीं जाता था। सो ये शुरू के वक्त की बात है, उस वक्त। और सो यूं हुआ कि जर्नलिस्ट के साथ एक रिलेशनशिप, बहुत सारे जर्नलिस्ट के साथ, और वो इस तरह से कि जब भी कोई इंसिडेंट होता था, मिसाल के तौर पे राणा भगवान दास साहब जज जो है सिंध के, उनके घर के ऊपर बाहर जो है ना वो मोबाइल एंड पहरा, और आईएसआई का बंदा वो बैठे हुए, ठीक है। और यहाँ पे उस्मान नूरानी साहिबा, हम लोग एक सेमिनार में से निकले विच वाज ऑन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान। मेरे ख्याल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान किसने पढ़ा है, शायद कोई लॉयर हो तो उसने पढ़ा होगा, लेकिन तो हमने कहा ओके, दिस इज अ गुड पॉइंट, व्हाई डोंट वी रीड द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एंड अंडरस्टैंड उसमें है क्या। सो वी हैड दिस ग्रेट टॉक इन बाथ आइलैंड, वो उस जमाने में ऑफिस होता था नजमा सादिक का, राइट, वहां पे। और वो भी एक बड़ी पुरानी इमारत थी और बड़ी अच्छी जगह थी, और उनकी लाइब्रेरी भी बहुत अच्छी थी। तो वहां पे ये हुआ, जैन शेख साहब जो लॉयर हैं, उन्होंने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को समझाया कि उसकी बेसिस जो है ना, वो है आपके राइट्स, इंडिविजुअल्स के राइट्स, शहरी के राइट्स, सिटीजनशिप राइट्स। एंड व्हाट आर दे? दे आर द ह्यूमन, यूनिवर्सल ह्यूमन राइट्स, राइट टू लाइफ, ठीक है, राइट टू लिव हेल्दी लाइफ। अभी लास्ट जो अमेंडमेंट्स हुए हैं, सो एवरीथिंग डिराइव्स फ्रॉम दैट कि लाइफ को फ्लरिश करना चाहिए, ठीक है। सो योर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑल्सो, और एवरी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज देयर टू प्रोटेक्ट लाइफ, ठीक है। अच्छा, सो ह्यूमन राइट्स इज अ पर्टिकुलर काइंड ऑफ राइट्स, यानी उसमें से अगर आप रिलीजन निकाल दें तो वो ह्यूमन राइट्स हो जाता है, बट इन एक्चुअल फैक्ट एंड प्रैक्टिस इट्स नॉट डिफरेंट। कुछ चीजों में उलझावा बहुत है, वो उसको अभी छोड़ दें। सो राइट्स की जो बेसिस है, उसके ऊपर बाकी पूरा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन खड़ा हुआ है। सो दिस वाज लाइक, ओ वाओ, ओके। हमने वो पढ़ा था पहले कि देयर इज लाइक 3 टियर्स ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, यानी कि 3 पाए हैं। स्टूल जो खड़ा हुआ है आपका, उसके 3 पाए हैं, ठीक है। एक जुडिशरी है, जुडिशरी के पास कोई बंदूक नहीं होती, ठीक है, वो लफ्जों का काम करते हैं। सो दिस इज रियली इंटरेस्टिंग, राइट। लैंग्वेज, सारा काम उनका लैंग्वेज का है। एंड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को कहा जाता है कि ऑब्वियसली इट्स वर्ड्स, बट इट इज द स्पिरिट ऑफ द कंट्री, यानी उसमें लफ्जों में जो जान है, वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की जो स्पिरिट है, सो दैट इज योर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, मतलब इट इज द स्पिरिट ऑफ द कंट्री, द स्टेट। अच्छा, और उसी के अंदर लिखा होता है कि कौन सी मिनिस्ट्रीज होंगी, कौन से डिपार्टमेंट्स होंगे, किसका क्या काम है, एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट। अच्छा जी, ठीक है। देन देयर वाज द पार्लियामेंट, वहां पे एक एक बंदा सारे मुल्क से इलेक्ट होके आता है, सो इट्स रिप्रेजेंटेटिव, लेकिन एक बंदा लाखों को रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा होता है, सो दैट्स एन इम्पॉसिबल टास्क ऑल्सो। फैमिलीज होती हैं, वो अपने ही लोग इलेक्ट करती हैं, सो वो भी मैकेनिज्म्स काफी हैं। देन यू हैव द एग्जीक्यूटिव, सो द प्राइम मिनिस्टर, कभी वो प्रेसिडेंट बन जाता है, कभी उधर चला जाता है, कभी आर्मी कैंप में चला जाता है, सो वो इवन दैट हैज नॉट बीन क्लियर। लेकिन दिस ट्राइपार्टाइट सिस्टम गोज बैक टू अ सर्टेन टाइम, और उसका पहला एक्सपेरिमेंट वाज द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स इन 1776। ओके, सो दीज वर द एनलाइटनमेंट प्रिंसिपल्स, ठीक है, फ्रॉम, जो कि फ्रांस से आए थे। आई मीन अमेरिका वाज लाइक द बैक वाटर्स एट द टाइम, रियली। तो 13 स्टेट्स में, और उसकी सिविल वॉर की मूवीज अभी अच्छी आई हैं, वो उनका वो दे शो दैट काइंड ऑफ रॉ कैरेक्टर, यू कह रहे हैं। अच्छा, सो but the new ideas were coming from France, and that's why you have the Statue of Liberty and everything, okay? So coming back, that tripartite system seemed to be working, and it was part of our constitution, okay? And so this was something new, and it was like confidence giving कि यार ये सिस्टम तो ठीक है, ये चल नहीं रहा है ठीक। So इस तरह के मसले बार बार आते रहे, and I saw that again and again and again. तो उस जमाने में जो जर्नलिस्ट के साथ काम किया on information, how to get the information out from a particular village, place, city out into the world, क्योंकि जब इंफॉर्मेशन रिस्ट्रिक्ट की जाती है तो आपको कैद किया जाता है, ताकि ना किसी को पता चले कि क्या हो रहा है और ना। सो उस जमाने में, लाइक आई सेड, देयर वाज नॉट, द इंटरनेट वाज देयर, लेकिन ये व्हाट्सएप नहीं था, सो यू डिडंट गेट ऑल द पिक्चर्स एंड स्टफ। देयर वाज नो इंस्टा, देयर वाज नो फेसबुक। फेसबुक अराइव्ड इन लाइक 2006 और समथिंग, बट गूगल अराइव्ड इन 2000। तो ये उस जमाने की sort of बात है। Skype had just arrived. So the first video thing. I'm talking so much about these techs because we use them. We use them for activism at the time to oppose the state. और वो जो राणा भगवान दास के बाहर हम उस सेमिनार से निकल के आए, so there was a vigil. उसके अंदर असद उमर भी खड़े हुए थे, बाकी लोग भी खड़े हुए थे। एक पॉलिटिकल पार्टी थी उसका नाम था CMKP। उसमें टोटल 7 लोग थे, और 7 लोगों का मतलब होता है कि वो एक टांगे में फिट आ जाएंगे। सो ऐसी पार्टियां कई थी, और उनको कहते थे टांगा पार्टी। तो वो एक टांगा पार्टी थी जिसके के नारे लगाने वाले अमेजिंग थे। सो वो नारे लगा रहे थे। उसमें उज़्मा नूरानी, जो कि इंतहाई बहादुर खातून है, वो उसमें कूद गई। ISI का बंदा जो कहता था ना, वो उसी का नारा बना के वापस डबल तेजी से, डबल आवाज से। अगले दिन वो पहरा। अच्छा, फिर उसके बाद ये हुआ कि वहां की लाइट बंद की गई, बिजली बंद की गई उस पूरी स्ट्रीट की, और पुलिस ने जितने लोग खड़े हुए थे उनको अरेस्ट करना शुरू किया। मैं और दूसरे कुछ दोस्त जो हैं, थे सारे, आधे आधे डिफेंस क्लिफ्टन वाले थे, आधे दूसरे से। इट वाज अ वेरी मिक्स्ड लॉट। ठीक है, इधर उधर भागे अंधेरे में। एंड वी डिडंट नो व्हाट हैड हैपेंड। इन द मॉर्निंग दैट पहरा वाज गॉन, दैट ISI guy was gone. Bhagwan Das was free. ठीक है, it was this little group of people, some insane people, but you know, people who were there, हम बिल्कुल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के उससे बाहर निकल के आए थे। ठीक है, दे कुड नॉट टेक दैट प्रेशर। हम इतने डरे हुए उसमें से निकले थे, बट इट आई ऑलमोस्ट फेल्ट लाइक जो हमारी पैरानॉइड स्टेट है, मैं उनसे बात की है हमने कुछ, समथिंग फेल। ठीक है, एंड दैट वाज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट इट वाज लाइक। दे यूज टेरर, they use terror. Simply the state terrorizes you. ठीक है, okay. So वो जैसा भी हो, we were on the other side. Open information, freedom of speech, press club, right to information. Right to information was another thing that was, the countries were picking that up from the UN. जरा कोई पूछ ले, क्या नाम है, नवीद, जरा musicians को पूछ लो if they're ready. Should we not let me, and please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for keep you waiting. So we are now going to officially open the show. I'm the curator of this show, and you all know the name, Water Rights the Land. मैं चमन में खुश नहीं हूँ. This exhibition is a stem from the idea of River Indus as a unifying force. It connects not only our region, but also our country. This exhibition also draws upon the idea of water as an author, one that writes without alphabet, grammar, or intention, yet leaves behind legible marks. Meanders become sentences, deltas form punctuation, and eroded banks read as palimpsest of climate, labor, and loss. This show is part of the first Climate Week Karachi, the theme of which is Tides of Tomorrow. This exhibition gestures towards so many forms of how you can read water, indigenous riverine knowledge systems that do not seek to master the text of water, but to listen to it, to read currents, seasonal rhythms, smells, and the texture of mud as a living language. Rather than offering solutions, Water Rights the Land invites its viewers into a practice of attention. To read the river is to accept instability, to understand land as provisional, and to recognize that the future, like water, will not follow a single line. In standing before these works, we are asked not how to write over water, but how to live within its ever unfinished sentence. Thank you. I would like to invite the next session, which is a panel. I would like to invite Nilofurfarrukh. Oh, sorry, my bad. Nilofurfarrukh. She is one of our esteemed panelists. Big round of applause. Amraali, Sohailzuberi, Yasirhussain. Okay, so I would like to start the panel with Amraali, and my question to Amraali is, what does it mean practically to go beyond crisis narrative in a show that's depicting ecology?
In this. Thank you, TJ. It's a very important, very good, big question. And I can talk from my experience, I guess, because I've been curating past, I think, 7, 8 or more shows, which have, I guess, addressed ecology. They stem from the connection to nature, between art, the space in which it is curated, and intersections of art, architecture, community, so I've been looking for spaces where those conversations could start or continue, very consciously trying to uncurate in a way, because I really been studying curation and shows, and I feel that in order to uncurate, you need to curate certain different trajectories within and narratives. So I've always looked at narratives or addressed narratives that I have been engaged with. So the conversations have been ongoing, or conversations and experience of artists or even non-artists, creative bodies, let's say, creative thought that can become part of a curated space or an art space. So this connection between the inside and the outside has been very important, and also important is very important is the context. For example, I can give you, I don't want to talk too much. I mean, we're just starting the conversation, but for example, if we're looking at the sea view belt or low-lying areas, so all that area is beyond Mohatta has been reclaimed, right? So you automatically going into the history of that space, the geography, and the art galleries are situated. For example, Koel is there and Gandhara is there, and so that connection to water is there and automatic, because you can walk to this ocean, right? So if you are so that just by virtue of that location, that idea or narrative of reclamation is already there. And I feel that in curation, you don't spell everything out, but you do your research and then you decide what perspective of where you want to enter the conversation. So, and also keeping in mind that I am an art critic and I'm a writer, and also actually an artist who studied art history and then moved into writing. So I think it's creativity is one strand, these all strands of your creative whatever you are doing. So I really don't think you need to be a curator. Anyone can curate. But when you start working with spaces, you start understanding these other strands which are related to curation, right? For example, you cannot. I am very against this, call for work on this, and then you have 50 works. I feel that you need to go very sensitively and engage with works, and what strand of an artist's thought are you trying to engage with. So you really go into something which is something new that comes, emerges. For example, the space at Koyal, in my shows Beyond the Waters, in which Sohailzuberi was also a part of, and Rashida Ryan and many other artists. I was looking at the floor of, or imagining the floor of Koyal as a water body. So see, that was my creative process, and then I did not announce it, I did not say it, but then I built my narrative around it. And then there was the elements, which was light, natural light, water. So I was looking of all as a holistic sort of a body. That's how I would, answer your question, and then we can go into other aspects as we move.
Thank you. Thank you. So my next question is with Sohail Zubair, who recently curated a show on Manchar Lake. What do you think is the responsibility of a curator when working with a climate-affected community and a climate-affected landscape?
So, I think the primary concern should be, just Amra just said, you have to be sensitive to the community, right? We, like as artists or curators, are not there to sort of make the change, right? We are catalysts maybe at best, and looking at the community, the Manchar Lake, the Mohanas, which is now the last remaining boat people in the entire Indus River ecology. There used to be hundreds, if not thousands, of those, and now they've come down to just one cluster of 40 odd boats there. So as a curator, like the whole process of asking or selecting artists who are working with diverse kind of have different trajectories of work, getting those people having a conversation with the community, sustained preferably, but here we had a week of conversation. I like these things cannot happen overnight, and I wouldn't say it would be it's a successful or you can gauge it in that manner. This has to be an engagement which is long term, which might lead to some positive change. But here, as a curator, this was just opening a small window to this problem that we have. There immense amount of problems that are this community is facing right now, and if a curator or artist with the help of the curator are able to kind of highlight that problem, even like a single problem that comes into, like, see, the show happened, now we're having a conversation, that conversation will go further. So that is how people would kind of know, try to understand, maybe visit that community, and hopefully it will move forward. But coming back to your question, uh, curator's job in this specific project is not like that big or that important, I would say.
Okay, thank you. So my next question is from Nilofur. Anthropocene is often narrated through loss and catastrophe. What does this framing enable, and what does it shut down?
I think it's related to experience and context. So if you live in an environment where you see the obvious impact of climate change, it is very difficult to escape the threat, the real threat. And it depends how the show is being curated or how the work is being created. It determines, what people get to see. And as you said, is it going to be about loss, or are we going to move beyond that? When I look at the Manchar Lake work, I feel it is the ambiguity within it and the relationship with life on water that somehow makes it poetic. It kind of, the people who created it lived on that lake. They spent a lot of time in that environment. They also saw that despite the fact that their village was almost wiped out, their boats were non-functional, they still clung to life and they worked. I mean, there's a lot of resilience there. There's a lot of that hope of survival. And that somehow was communicated through the work.
ये तो बहुत खतरनाक क्वेश्चन था. You want to pursue this? आप उसको दोबारा से do you want to rephrase that?
Yeah,
want
so
to say the question
basically,
again?
I'm asking you this question because if I ask Nilofur, that would be like, too obvious.
Yeah, okay.
So she has a certain experience, but you don't have that experience, but you are still a curator.
Yeah.
So how, or like, what is your perspective of when you are producing a certain type of exhibit or a specific festival where you're engaging a lot of people or a lot of different and diverse communities. So how important it is to do it like, with a certain amount of care and sensitivity.
Yeah.
Or how differently
I think
you
the
would...
word care is very important, and I think you also in your जो आपने शुरू में भेजा था, there was also some care and some other word, which is very important. Pass the, yeah, that's a very important question. I would also like to talk about the last conversation and maybe take it from there, because I think when my perspective when curating has been that water has memory, earth has memory, and whenever you talk to artists who've been part of my shows, there's a history and memory of, for example, Rashid Ryan's work from the 1950s. So there is a memory of by this artist who's now in Great Britain after so many decades and showing at the Tate Modern, but there's a memory of his watercolors which were done of boats from where he studied abstraction. So that memory of form, memory of space, of his childhood. So that memory, so you cannot separate when you're talking about empathy, for example, or oral histories. It's the memory that's embedded within, and then its connection to, say, other histories, social history, or the history of that space. So that becomes very important, because when you're curating, you are not in one space, nor are the artists. And for example, I showed Zirak Ahmed's work, which was the memory of water through sound that is, that emerges from different parts of the body. So the sound becomes very important also. So memory is a very important aspect. And your question about
how would
yes,
you ideally like to
yeah,
do?
I think it's a very important question also, because the history of Biennale, we know, was coming from industrial fairs. But where we are today is very important. And Karachi Biennale can be seen as a narrative of resilience, which is very different from the Lahore Biennale as far as I see it, because the connection to city, for example, or witness, as we saw in the first Biennale, saw the movement of people to different parts of the cities, to architectural history, to social histories, and this history of the city. And then there was the art. So these ruptures make it very, I think, engaging, as well as they question the authority of art spaces, and the politics of art, because that movement and that engagement with the city and a space is not just with the Frey Hall, or with, for example, we had Nisa Khan's work we saw, but there was Sadiqen was already there, and there is these other histories. So, you have the Marriott in front, which there was a bombing there. So, all those years. And so the city has a memory, and when artists from abroad show in Karachi, or in a place like Karachi, and you're talking about the Biennale, so we might as well contextualize. It would be interesting to see how they saw their work or read their work in this context, where they come for a few, for a limited time, as opposed to artists who've evolved in the city, or nationally, or in outdoor spaces. And I think it's very difficult to not package it, because you are also under pressure, I would imagine, to produce or to manifest something which the city can accept, because they are the funding bodies. And I think those would be the challenging aspects. But when it comes to the artist, I think it gives you immense opportunities to delve into narratives which were not done before on that scale. You know, scale itself opens you out of the bubble, of any bubble, and the interaction between communities, becomes very important. For me, those were the aspects that I was studying, rather than, the specific artworks. I also feel that, many years ago, and I think Nilofar might like to talk about it. We at Nukta Art Magazine, we had this project with the British Council, the 1 Square Mile, which was an online thing also in different cities like Dhaka, Nepal, etc. And we looked at 1 Square Mile, and we looked at environmental degradation, and Nukta chose the My Karachi belt. So we had artists, but we also had, people who were already working on environment. So there was that, rupture between the art as a bubble and other bodies. So the conversations were, the idea was to start the conversations so that art moves out of its comfort zone into conversations which are based on the realities of degradation. And within that, there is the curatorial narrative, which has to do with the poetics of saying, of poetics of doing, the pace of what happens, what do you want to show, and a lot of conversations. So I think the fair can be at risk of glamorizing climate, for example, because it is the in thing to talk about, but it can be done in a very sensitive, very quiet manner, quiet to the extent that, it's not publicized for its, and I think that is the difference between, I would say, Karachi and
Lahore.
Lahore. And the difficulty in understanding a biennale like this, in this location, is more difficult because, if you have the funding, anyone can create the glamour, right? But when it's embedded in, and suppose you moved into a space, or we were driving past this other road. Suppose you say this road is a biennale site by itself, you don't touch it, you don't do anything to it, so that you allow people to ask questions, and that would be the challenge. And I think that would be sort of unraveling the truths, so to speak.
Thank you. So my next question is with Mr. Sohailzuberi. Is repair about restoring what was, or learning how to live with irreversible change?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Is repair about restoring what was, or about learning how to live with irreversible change? Repair.
Even I can't understand.
So is repair about restoring what was, or about learning how to live with irreversible change? Yeah.
Is repair?
Sorry, it's the echo.
Yeah. Is repair? Sorry, I'm having a difficult time kind of wrapping my head around the question.
Would you like to
Chai peeni piya.
Yeah, it's this one. Yeah.
About storing what was, or about learning how to.
I think we need to prepare the question now.
Yeah. Okay, so when you say repair, like, we are not here to repair, right? We are addressing what has already changed, right? So there's no going back to what was. So there is no question of restoring or sort of making it live or relive or live again. So that question is not there.
No, I am talking it from a climatic perspective. Because when you are curating a particular show on a climatic theme, you want to change something. So that would be repairing. You want it to be better.
Okay, in that context, the repair aspect would be the conversation, right? So the conversation, that was the missing sort of piece. You kind of fit that piece back into the narrative, and it becomes a conversation. So that is where, if you take the recent example of the Mohanas, right? This is so. This curatorial project was part of a much bigger project, which was happening for the past 3 years, since 2022. So there were architects involved in it, the whole heritage cell of NET, and their resources and their knowledge was already being there. So when we, like as the curator and the artist, encountered that space or that community, they had already been primed to quite to quite an extent that way. So it was easy to kind of repair those things because that dialogue was already happening. So we just kind of intervened in the sense that obviously we had a diverse list of artists. Many of them are in this show here as well. So they brought obviously their own perspective, their own conversation into the thing, into this project, and therefore they kind of extended that conversation, which was already happening between architects or heritage kind of consultants with the community. So this is, I think, does it answer your question?
Yes, yes, it does.
But if I can,
Sorry for not understanding. I couldn't
if I
ever
can
judge
add,
his,
Yes, please.
sound.
there are two things. One is when you're talking about repair, and Sohail is talking about, well, it's already happened. This overwhelming sense of loss, I have felt each time, and just sadness. And the last show, Salab, was so somber that even I got, because it was, coming to terms with the reality, it's very difficult. So you have this moment when you walk into a gallery and you find this sense of somber. So imagine the curator who's worked on it for have conversations for, let's say, for that show for the last prior 6 months, so that and then it evolves, right, that sense of loss. And but it's just facing it, but how you want to face, how you want to show that in an art environment, let's say, or a constellation of artistic narratives. I found that you have to have depth in meaning physical terms, like in the gallery space and open spaces where people will be able to just sit and breathe. So the walls are empty, and those spaces are always for people where they can absorb, right? And that becomes very important also in this when you're
Repair,
talking about
yeah.
repair, because we are collectively dealing with the loss.
Yeah, I think I can relate with it because for this particular show, when I was meeting a lot of fishermen folk, or I went to Ravigoat and I met a lot of people there, I think just to look at the dire state of the place itself, and when I came back, I was so surprised. I mean, like when you look at it from a curator's perspective, or even when you look at it as just as a person, we don't tend to get the seriousness or the intensity of the grave reality that these particular communities are living. So you always have a certain perspective, but when it's right there in front of you, then it hits you. And I came back and I said to Yasir that, that's what I feel about it, or I felt at that point in time. So he just said to me that they're the margin of the margin. So it's like, in a way, they're just being left. So, so obviously that can affect and impact you both at the same time.
It is also very empowering to connect with people who are like-minded, because there is that sense and that strength. People like Arif Hassan, for example, town planning. So all these different people who come together because there is that strength in, and that is how you come to hope. Because you have to take, and at least in the artistic world, we've been looking at other cultures. We've been looking at, for example, Richard Long's walk through, and it is like, please, fetishizing. And it's so colonial in its narrative, right? And bringing it into the museum. So this is a living museum, if that's how you want to look at it. And we are looking at our own space. And I think that artists are empowered. And I think that is a very important aspect.
Sure.
I think when we talk about repair, a very important element of it is the human connection. I agree. In terms of environment, there is tremendous loss, but the human being is very resilient. So when you work with people, you also repair, because it's not about the environment alone, it's about getting to understand them, and them understanding you. Remember, there is a tremendous distance. This distance is about experience, is about many things. So when we brought, Kadir Jhatyal's boat in the last Biennale into NED, people for the first time experienced a regular fisherman's boat on the dry land, in a sort of exhibition space. And he had installed it with images of dead birds around it, buried in the sand. So there were layers to it. And I think I would not say that was the only thing that you could relate to in terms of understanding. But then also at Frere Hall, we had the whole fisherman community, where Fatma had brought the entire fishing community. They had their festivals there. There was the zine project that Fazal had put together. So I think the repair is about how the curator, the people who sort of manage or organize festivals, biennales, even climate change festival that we are in, week that we are in, we have to proactively engage with the community. They should come here as audiences, maybe play a role in what's been put up, maybe engage at multiple levels. I think that is where, to me, repair lies.
Engagement.
So my next question is from Nilofur. How do you think curatorial practices help audiences imagine coexistence with non-human worlds? Because when we talk about ecology, we are just not looking at it from the perspective of human. We are also looking at it from the perspective of the climate, and it includes a lot of non-human species.
I think when you experience or you understand climate change, it is a holistic thing. It's about things that you've talked about: species, the geographical kind of space, the cultural experience, ecological experience. Everything is all interconnected, is really deeply entangled. So I think to separate it wouldn't do justice to the whole ecological narrative. Because once you look at a space, let's look at, again, we're going to Mohana village, or we can go to any village, like, if you go to Reri Goat or you go anywhere, it's the experience you get. The visual is about destruction. The boat yard over there is no longer producing boats. People are in dire straits. It's heavily polluted, the water. So for us to separate all that, the community and these various elements of degradation, is very difficult. And to bring them into an exhibition space, actually, with time, more and more, I'm inclined to think we should not have exhibition spaces the way we've been using them in the past. Maybe we need to start using public parks, public spaces, and creating a very kind of inclusive environment there. Because the whole idea of the white cube and improvised halls like this, we are still creating a barrier. We need to be showing, if we are going to really communicate, this massive change, or work towards sensitization of people, we have to move into the public space. We've done that. We've been to Frere Hall. Yeah, we've been to Frere Hall. We have been Bagh Ibn Qasim. To me, Bagh Ibn Qasim is the ideal meeting place of all classes of people, the educated, the non-educated, coming from all parts of the city. They come from all over the country to experience the sea. So I think we need to be using those spaces. It's important, because otherwise we will have a narrative as producers of art, as producers of exhibition, and they will have a narrative at, people on the margins of the margin. So, these are things that we must bridge. And I think that is where the challenge lies. And as artists, we need to consciously think about it. And curators,
So,
of course.
what Nilofur is saying, having been from the artist side, having been an artist in two iterations of the Karachi Biennale, both times my work was in a very public space, and I tell you, the engagement I had with people was I didn't want to kind of ever show my work in a wide cube gallery, because it is just you have your artists, you have your educated kind of people in the know who are coming and looking at the work kind of more critically. But here people are engaging and they're interested, and you're creating this dialogue, this conversation. It's beautiful. It is on another level. And what Nilofur is saying, it has already happened, and it happens with each kind of biennale more and more. And then some works are kind of left behind, permanent work, like Hamra Abbas's work is still there. Whenever I take someone to Kothari Parade, I have a conversation about that work, which has now become a public work, accessible to each and every person in the city. So this is how you kind of bring the art to the public rather than bringing public to the art. They automatically kind of happens in a very organic manner.
Can I add something?
Yeah,
It's
sure.
also when in the process of uncurating, you're bringing the public to the artist, and you're bringing the outside and the water and the memory to the art space to break that, to find that rupture. For example, in Clifton, all the art spaces were townhouses. So you imagine that this was a social space, there was a kitchen, there was this thing. So, so it's I think the thing is changing, but still it's very secluded spaces. I think we need to break that by bringing, the inside, outside, and the outside, inside.
Yeah. True. Yeah, sure. So this is not a question answer, it's a conversation. So you
Good.
guys
I'm
can
glad.
ask questions too, yeah.
You know, we talked about repair, and I think it's a very important time to talk about repair and ecology or art practice that is kind of inclined and is concerned about ecology. You know, the way art is created and exhibited, we really need to look at it very closely. We need to be looking at sustainable practices. Art that is created on a large scale, and then after a festival is over or an exhibition is over, where does it go? Can an artist recycle artwork? Because I remember when we had the 1 mile exhibition, 1 mile square exhibition, one of the artists took his thesis work and reworked it. It was a huge work. It was by this one. I'll remember the name in the process. He reworked it. So I think, hey, no, the other one, Adil was Zafar had done that. So I think quite often we really need to be very conscious of what we are creating. How can we recycle it? Or are we being too wasteful? Is there another way of doing it? I think the responsibility is also on the curator, that how much can we not disturb? How much can we recycle? And the third responsibility is maybe on the audience. The audience is now looking for a spectacle. They're looking for something, which has a wow factor.
Yeah.
To me, the wow factor is overrated, because if it's at the best of
I think the wow factor is you.
yes. So I think these are all questions we have to begin to ask, because we learned from a lot of mistakes in the Karachi Biennale. It was a journey of 10 years. And in the end, this is what we learned, that the only way to have a sustainable biennale is to recycle, repurpose, be conscious. And I sort of share that with everyone.
Yeah.
Because why should others be making a mistake that we've learned from? And, it's nice to be really re-looking at all these practices that we've had in the past.
Yeah, and I like to add that you also offered a lot of help to me. Like, you talk about sustainability and you reach out to me. So I think that also tells how open you are about it.
Yeah, I think we should have a pool of resources we share among all the people in this city.
Yeah. And also, like, as artists and curators, we should also have this dialogue where we can rely on each other or seek support and help, rather than just creating it in isolation. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think it's so important when you're talking about recycling, because it really, gels. And I find that as curators, we need to show the same work in different locations, because each time I feel that, you'll get 1,001 likes and share and yay or go if you're putting the right narrative and the right words. And it somehow sometimes means nothing, because the work, no one's talked about the work. I mean, for example, I've put work where I feel that people should be asking questions, or I've written something, or I've alluded to something in my text. But what happens is that the statement that the curator writes is copied word to word, and it becomes someone's review, right? So first you go and tell the reviewer, because you don't want their support, you tell them that this is wrong.
Yeah.
So I've done that, but then the person, problems hoti, but you have to be resilient when you do this, right? And it is I think it is, periphery is the best space in the art world, because you do your work without the glamour, but you as long as they're meaningful conversations for you and the artist, I think that is more sustainable than the glamorous. And with AI, it's another problem, because you look at statements and that this person is. I mean, those same words, same patterns, and so those are all the traps that we have. and the attention span of people is also, shortened, I think, more and more because of social media presence. So I think that's very
Yeah,
important when you talk
I
about
like to add
recycling.
that, this is just like, my opinion. I think you can have the glamour, you can have the spectacle, but there also needs to be substance. What's next then, So now you have the glamour, now people are drawn towards you, but then what is substantial that you are using through that medium?
Yeah.
It should not just be used as a ploy.
Yeah, or for example, where the work is going next, if it's been taken by some museum or gallery, and in the 80s and 90s, we used to have we used to run to the galleries, to the openings, to talk to the artist, right? And pictures came later, but with social media, it's really difficult, So
Yeah. So my next question is with Yasir. When you think of like, doing such a large event on climate, um, what was your reason to include art in it or cultural elements into it? You could have done a seminar, or you could have done just like a event that's just related to all those academic sessions and things like that. So why do you decided to do it through the medium of art?
Well, that's such an interesting question, because I said to Nilofur once that the whole CAC is an art project, and there is a history here. Um, when in the 90s the internet was coming onto the scene, artists were experimenting with it. Okay, and so it had not made its way to museums. I'm talking about new media art and stuff like that. So technology and digital, which means it doesn't exist. And on the other hand, there are humans plugged into it, right? So this kind of human machine thing was very interesting. Okay, because I've kind of, my own practice, you can say, or my own thought is kind of conceptual. It starts conceptually, uh, and it ends up very applied in a lot of cases. And so I think there's also art which is functional. So I think I kind of open up some of the avenues in that direction. Um, and of course, the public should be involved. It's the interaction which is very productive, I think.
So, so now I would ask, like, all my panelists, is there a question that you want to ask me? Yeah, me, because,
why were you late?
yeah. Why what?
The question to ask you is, why were you late? Sorry.
Oh, why were you?
But thank you for this amazing conversation, and the idea behind it is fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to ask you a question regarding, the curatorial premise is very interesting and it's sort of all encompassing in a way. But as a technical question, how difficult is it to put together a show in a limited time? And would you do it again? This is because, we are all committed to, building something upwards, not horizontal.
So, so I would like to answer the second part of your question. Yes, because sometimes when you are put through a challenging situation, then you have a different type of energy. It's like you're running against the time. So often in my personal experience, I find that exercise that can put me right at the front of the challenge, rather than taking my own time and just procrastinating about a particular idea. When you are time bound and you have to deliver, then you sort of not only intensify the whole process, you also have a different energy. It's more like a warrior, you know. Like you have to fight so many wars every day. I mean, you have to fight a war even if you have a time. but I think, like, you know, so to say, I think it also depends on the people who are organizing, how easier they have made it for you, whether the time is longer or shorter, and particularly the artists, because the whole curatorial process is revolving around the artists and their artwork. So I would probably not be able to curate this show in a short span of time if I don't have these artists, or I don't have these artists who agree to be part of this show and create original pieces in such a short notice. So I think the credit also goes to all the artists who decided to join this on such a short span of time. It is doable, yes, with certain resources and certain artists, but ideally, I would like to have some more time. I would like to have some breathing space. Also, because this time of the year, like, you know, January, December in our part of the world is like where you have so many things overlapping, so many logistics that you need to look into. So I think, you know, time wise also and space wise also, I think, like, you know, next time I would like to do it, but then, like, you know, have more time so I can then be more prepared, because I think the curatorial process is just like making a film. It's like storytelling. So you need to have an idea, then you need to write about it, and then you need to conceptualize that. So sometimes you
can
can.
I say something about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, sure.
And wrap up also. Yeah.
Yeah.
Acha. So yeah, so it's really interesting how we paired up, and it's so I tried to while we were setting up CAC, I mean art had to be there. अच्छा अच्छा जी 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 बिल्कुल बिल्कुल अभी बस रैप अप जी जी रैप अप ओके अच्छा तो बात बात मैं ये कह रहा था कि it was almost like मुझसे हो नहीं रहा था, and then TJ arrived and he was like well equipped, well prepared, uh, touching the right topics, and so I think within the time frame, within the limitations, um, I'm very surprised. I'm quite amazed what's
So now you should
happening.
commission him right now for the next one.
Yeah.
Or someone else, whoever you want, but do it now.
Can we have the? I would like to the panel and thank all my esteemed panelists. Thank you for waiting and thank you for all your time, kindness, love, and support. Can we have the souvenirs for our panelists on stage?
I would like you guys to take seat and please put your hands together for TJ.
ز دست آن که جهان بس فتنه خواهد دید از آن چشم آزاد جهان بس فتنه خواهد از آن چشم
The only way to save us is through divine intervention. The only way we'll be saved, divine intervention.
till you love me. I'll fuck you till you love me. I'll fuck you till you love me. 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 Love me. Till you love me. I'll fuck you till you love me. I'll fuck you till you love me. Love me. Love me. Love me. Love me.